Hear me. I am the echo in the canyon, the memory in the stone. Come, and I will sing you not of a dancer, but of a weaver, a man whose hands did not write in dust, but spun fate from the sands of the midnight market. In a time when the desert was a sea of forgotten whispers, there was an oasis called Gabriel's Embrace, shielded by cliffs of singing sandstone. Here, the oracle was not a woman who danced, but a man who wove. His name was Kofi, the Silent Loom. Struck mute by a childhood fever, Kofi spoke through the shuttle and the spindle. By day, he was a humble cloth maker, but when the triple moons aligned, he would ascend to the loom of ancestors, a giant, skeletal frame of petrified acacia wood. He did not use dyed thread, but sand of every hue, blood red from the northern dunes, bone white from the salt flats, the deep indigo of crushed night flowers. As the drummers beat the rhythm of the earth's own pulse, Kofi would weave. And in his tapestries of sand, people saw their tomorrows, a love's return, a sickness taking root, a betrayal dressed as a gift. The sand did not fall, it flowed, defying the wind, holding patterns that told truths too sharp for words. He was the weaver of midnight sands, and his silent prophecies held the oasis together, until the day the emperor's iron shadow fell upon them. The oasis of Gabriel's Embrace was a miracle of defiant green, a secret held tightly by the talking cliffs. These towering rock faces hummed when the desert winds blew, a low, resonant song that the people believed was the voice of their founder, Gabriel, still guarding them. The heart of the community was the night well, a pool so deep it was said to reflect starlight even at noon. Around it grew the moon blossom trees, whose silver leaves tinkled like wind chimes. Here lived Kofi, a man of quiet eyes and expressive hands. His muteness was not seen as a lack, but as a space filled by a different kind of listening. His aunt, Mama Rose, the sharp-eyed elder herbalist, had raised him. The most important truths, child, are heard in the silence between heartbeats, she would sign to him. A closed mouth catches no sandflies, the elders would proverbially say, admiring his thoughtful nature. He learned the language of the loom from the old weaver Baba Thomas, whose own hands were gnarled like ancient roots, but could make thread sing. Kofi's gift first stirred not with sand, but with wool. At age 10, while weaving a simple blanket, his hands began to move without his command. The pattern deviated from the simple stripes he intended, twisting into the clear, unmistakable image of a scorpion with a broken tail. That evening, the boastful hunter Derek was brought to Mama Rose's hut, screaming in pain from a scorpion sting on the tip of his tailbone. Baba Thomas had witnessed the weaving. He took Kofi's small hands in his own. "Your hands see what our eyes cannot," he signed, his expression grave. "This is not just skill, it is sight. The loom is not your tool, it is your tongue." From that day, Baba Thomas's training changed. He taught Kofi the ritual of the empty basket. Before any sacred weaving, Kofi had to sit blindfolded, feeling different sands poured into his palms, the coarse grit of conflict, the fine silt of peace, the sharp crystals of danger. He learned to identify them by touch and temperature alone. "The truth is felt in the skin before it is seen by the eye," Baba Thomas instructed, embedding the virtue of intuition into his very fingertips. The transition to prophetic weaving came with his puberty rite, the ceremony of the first thread. At 14, Kofi was taken to the foot of the talking cliffs at midnight. The elders presented him with a spindle made from a fragment of the sacred moonblossom wood. He was to spin thread under the full moons while listening to the cliffs hum. As he spun, the hum seemed to organize into a faint, melodic voice, an ancestral whisper. The thread in his hands, made of ordinary goat hair, began to gleam with a faint, silvery light. Mama Rose wept when she saw it. "He has caught the moon song in the wool," she declared. That thread was never used for cloth. It became the central, guiding strand of the loom of ancestors, the first thread tied whenever he worked. This ritual bound Kofi irrevocably to his role, marking him as the vessel through which the ancestors and the spirit of the oasis communicated. The community now looked at him with a new reverence, understanding that his silence was the quiet before the profound speech of his craft. His first public prophecy was born of necessity. A season of freak, icy winds blew from the east, threatening to kill the delicate date palms. The elders asked Kofi to seek guidance. Trembling, he prepared at the great loom. Baba Thomas drummed a slow, shivering rhythm. Kofi began to weave with sands of gray and pale blue. The pattern emerged not as an image, but as a direction. The sands flowed eastward, then curved sharply south, piling into a dense knot at a specific point on the loom's frame. The chief's son, a practical young woman named Precious, interpreted. He points us southeast to the knot. She led a party to a forgotten cave in the cliffs, exactly southeast of the loom's position. Inside, they found a dense deposit of a black, crumbly rock. When burned, it gave off immense heat with little smoke, sun coal. They used it to build warming fires around the groves, saving the harvest. Kofi's hands had not predicted, they had navigated. He taught the oasis the virtue of resourcefulness, showing that answers often lie in forgotten places. Kofi's only true friend was Precious, the chief's daughter. Where he was silent and introspective, Precious was all action and fierce loyalty. She was training to be the oasis's master scout, learning every dune and wadi. She treated Kofi not as an oracle, but as a brother. They developed a fluent, private sign language for jokes and secrets. She protected his solitude, shooing away gawkers when he needed peace. When Precious's beloved grandmother fell ill, Kofi wove by her bedside with strands of the old woman's own hair mixed with sand. He wove not a future, but a tapestry of memory, the pattern of her first wedding shawl, the shape of her favorite water jug. As the familiar images took form, the woman's labored breathing eased, a smile touching her lips. She passed peacefully that night, holding a corner of the tapestry. Precious, through her grief, understood Kofi's gift was not just foresight, but a bridge for the heart. "You wove her back to herself," she signed, her eyes shining with tears. This revealed the healing, connective power of his gift. The harmony of the oasis was shattered by the arrival of the Iron Shadow. A contingent of the distant Sunstone Empire arrived, led by a formidable imperial surveyor named Commander Joel. She was clad in practical, gray steel-like fabric, her hair in tight braids coiled like a helmet. She bore no weapons, but a scroll case and a gaze that measured everything. "The Empire seeks the heart sand," she announced, her voice cool. "A mineral that fuels our great engines. Our instruments sing of its presence beneath your oasis. In exchange for mining rights, you will receive imperial protection, engineered wells, and wealth." The gift she presented was a marvel, an ever-flow vessel, a ceramic jug that never emptied, producing cool, clean water. It was a temptation more powerful than gold. The elders were torn. The Empire's promise glittered, but their ancestral tales warned of the Earth's spirit being wounded. They turned, as always, to Kofi. "Weave for us, Silent Loom. Weave the truth of this heart sand and the Empire's bargain." For 3 nights, Kofi wove. On the first loom, using the sands of the oasis itself, his pattern became chaotic, tangling and snapping the threads as if in pain. On the second night, he wove with sand from the Empire's own boots, offered by a wary guard. This sand formed rigid, perfect geometric grids that slowly crushed a depiction of the moon blossom tree at the center. On the third night, he combined the sands. The tension was awful. The loom groaned. Finally, a pattern resolved. The ever-flow vessel stood proud, but from its base, cracks spread like spiderwebs through the entire tapestry, and from the cracks seeped not water, but a black, glittering substance, the heart sand, that stained everything it touched. Kofi did not need to speak. The message was devastatingly clear. The Empire's gift came at the cost of the oasis's very foundation, poisoning it from within. The virtue of foresight had revealed a path of glittering ruin. Commander Joel was no fool. She saw the elders' growing resistance. She shifted her strategy, targeting the youth. She spoke to them of grand cities, of machines that flew, of a life beyond the primitive sands. She gifted them small, clever tools, self-sharpening knives, lenses that made distant stars seem close. Derek, the hunter, now saw his prowess as limited. We cling to sand while they build with steel, he argued in council. The elders, led by Chief Thompson and Mama Rose, stood firm. A tree that lets a stranger cut its roots for a pot of water will not live to see the next season, Chief Thompson stated, invoking an ancestral warning. They declined the mining rights, but offered trade for the Empire's tools and knowledge. Commander Joel's polite facade cracked. You choose dust over destiny, she said, her voice cold as desert night. The Empire does not ask twice. She departed, leaving the ever-flow vessel as a reminder of your choice. The oasis was left in a silence heavier than before, divided and afraid. The punishment was not immediate invasion. It was a strangulation. Imperial patrols began to roam the caravan routes just beyond the oasis's territory. They did not attack, but they inspected goods, levied heavy transit taxes on Gabriel's merchants, and spread rumors to other oases that Gabriel's embrace was cursed, its water soon to fail. Trade, their lifeblood, dwindled to a trickle. Scarcity bred fear, and fear bred resentment. Derek and his followers grew vocal. The Weaver's sand showed us fear, and we listened. Now we starve for his visions. The unity of the oasis frayed like old cloth. Kofi felt this discord in his very bones. When he tried to weave for simple community matters, the sands would only form images of splitting paths and turned backs. His gift was reflecting their fractured spirit. The virtue of unity, once taken for granted, was now their most precious and elusive resource. In the depths of this crisis, Kofi received direct ancestral guidance. He dreamt of the founder, Gabriel. She stood at the night well, but the water was black and still. She drew from it not water, but a handful of dark, gleaming heart sand. She poured it into a simple unglazed clay pot, then sealed it and buried it at the base of the tallest moonblossom tree. The poison must be held by the vessel, it cannot corrupt, her dream voice echoed. The strength is not in the single thread, but in the weave of many. Waking, Kofi went straight to Mama Rose and Chief Thompson. He acted out the dream with desperate signs. They understood. The Everflow vessel was the corrupt gift. It had to be contained, and the people had to be rewoven. They decided on a festival of reweaving, not a cloth, but of vows. Every family would bring a strip of cloth representing their lineage. Together, they would braid these into a massive rope, binding it around the trunk of the great tree. The festival began somberly. Kofi set up his loom in the square not to prophesy, but to demonstrate. He took threads offered by feuding families, a red thread from Derek's house, a blue from a merchant he'd argued with, and wove them together into a strong, beautiful band. He showed how separate they could snap. Together, they held weight. The people watched, the simple metaphor piercing their hearts. As the great communal rope grew, people began to talk, to reconcile. Derek, seeing his grandmother's wedding veil strip added to the rope, broke down. He went to Kofi and placed his imperial knife at the foot of the loom. It was a silent surrender. That night, under the moons, the completed rope was wound around the moonblossom tree. Chief Thompson poured the water from the Everflow vessel into the sacred night well, neutralizing its gift in their source. Then, following Kofi's dream, they sealed the empty vessel and buried it. The act was symbolic, but its power was real. They had chosen each other. The Empire's final test came not with soldiers, but with silence. The patrols vanished. Trade remained dead. A profound quiet, more menacing than any threat, settled over the desert. Then, the water sense, the subtle vibration in the sand that signaled the deep aquifer's flow, began to fade. The night well's level dropped, inch by terrifying inch. Panic returned, sharper now. Had the Empire cursed their water? Had burying the vessel somehow backfired? Kofi ascended to the great loom, his heart a drum of fear. He wove with sand from the well's receding edge. The pattern showed no external curse. Instead, it revealed the great, ancient root of the moonblossom tree deep underground, cracked and leaking. The problem was not the Empire. It was within their own sacred ecology. The tree was dying, and it was sucking the life from the water. The crisis was spiritual and natural, not military. They had to heal their tree. Healing the tree required the ritual of shared thirst. Led by Mama Rose, every villager had to contribute a bowl of their own daily water ration to the tree's roots for 7 days. It was an act of supreme faith and sacrifice. As they poured their precious water onto the parched earth, they sang the old songs of Gabriel. Kofi wove beside the tree daily, using sand mixed with the offered water, creating patterns of growth and healing. On the 7th day, a miracle. From the cracked root, a single luminous green shoot emerged, glowing softly in the dusk. The water sense returned to the sand, stronger than before. The well's level stabilized. The oasis had learned that true strength lies in collective sacrifice. They had nourished the source, and the source had answered. This lesson, born of Kofi's weaving, became their new core truth. With the immediate crisis over, Kofi was exhausted. The constant strain of being the community's spiritual lens had left him hollow. Precious, now his steadfast guardian, saw his fading light. She confronted the elders. "The loom is breaking its weaver," she signed fiercely. "He needs an apprentice. The gift must have a second set of hands, or it will die with him." The elders knew she was right. The virtue of sustainability had to apply to the gift itself. They began to observe the children. They looked not for mystics, but for those with quiet hands, potter's children who felt the clay's spirit, children who could untangle any knot. They found a young girl named Fred, who could listen to the talking cliffs and repeat their hums perfectly. She had the ears for the song. She was brought to Kofi. Kofi's first lesson for Fred was not at the great loom, but at the potter's wheel. "Before you shape fate, you must know how to hold formless earth," he signed, via Precious. He had her close her eyes and sent her a lump of wet clay. "Feel its resistance, its willingness. It will tell you what it wants to be." Fred struggled, her pots collapsing. Kofi placed his hands over hers. Together, they felt the clay's tension, its pulse. A simple, perfect bowl emerged. "Knowledge is a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested," Mama Rose said, watching. Kofi was teaching humility and touch, the foundation of all crafting. The prophecy was a craft of the highest order. Fred learned to listen with her fingertips before she would ever touch the sacred sand. As Fred learned, a final, unexpected figure arrived, a historian from the Sunstone Empire itself. He was old, robed in simple linen, and carried no weapons, only scrolls. "I have come not for your sand, but for your story," he said. Commander Joel's report spoke of a weaver who sees. "My order studies such anomalies." He asked permission to observe, offering in return knowledge of desert ecology from imperial archives. Wary but curious, the elders agreed. Natasha watched Kofi weave with an academic's eye, but also with a growing awe. He explained to Precious and the chiefs how the Empire's instruments worked, measuring vibrations, analyzing minerals. "His loom," Natasha murmured one night, "is an instrument measuring the vibration of time itself." His respect was genuine. He represented a bridge, a possibility that not all from the outside world sought to take, but some sought to understand. Using Tumrit's maps and Kofi's weaving, they made a breakthrough. Kofi wove a pattern showing a network of hidden waterways beneath the desert, like veins in a giant's arm. Tumrit's imperial charts showed mineral deposits that lined up perfectly with Kofi's sand veins. Together, they identified a place where a collapsed aquifer might be retapped, not for mining, but for water security. A joint expedition, led by Precious and including Derek, ventured out. They found the spot, a narrow canyon. Following Kofi's woven map, they cleared an ancient rockslide. A torrent of fresh, cold water, trapped for centuries, gushed out, creating a new, secondary spring. It was a triumph of synergy, ancestral sight, and external knowledge working as one. The oasis's future became more secure than ever. With security came a new danger, complacency. Some began to suggest that with Tumrit's knowledge and the new spring, Kofi's role was less vital. "We have maps now, not just mysteries," they whispered. Kofi felt this shift. His next weavings for the community became simpler, more celebratory than prophetic. He did not fight it. He understood his role was evolving. He focused on Fred. He began teaching her the sands of memory. He would give her a person's belonging, a worn bracelet, a lock of hair, and have her weave with plain sand. The task was not to see the future, but to capture the essence of the person in the pattern, their steadfastness, their joy, their sorrow. It was training her empathy, the core of true sight. To see forward, his lessons conveyed, you must first see deeply into the now. The ultimate test of Fred's training came with a personal tragedy. Mama Rose, the bedrock of the community, grew frail. On her deathbed, she asked not for a prophecy, but for a legacy tapestry. Kofi and Fred worked together at her bedside. Kofi wove the major threads. Mama Rose's arrival as a young bride, her discovery of the healing herbs. Fred, with tears streaming, wove in the finer details, the pattern of her famous stew pot, the shape of the amulet she always wore. As they wove, Mama Rose's breathing synchronized with the shuttle's pass. She pointed to a final blank corner. Fred intuitively took a thread from the old woman's own shawl and wove a simple rising sun. Mama Rose smiled her last smile. "A story well ends where a new day begins," she whispered. The apprentice had graduated. She had learned to weave not just observation, but love and legacy. Kofi now stepped back fully. The ceremony of the passing shuttle was held. Before the community, Kofi wove a final public tapestry. It showed two hands, one his own, large and weathered, passing a glowing shuttle to a smaller, eager pair of hands, Fred's. The sand of the tapestry then did something never seen before. It lifted from the loom in a sparkling cloud and settled gently on Fred's shoulders like a mantle of stardust. Kofi then removed the original moon-touched thread from the great loom and tied it around Fred's wrist. He was now former loom Kofi. His great work was complete. He moved to a smaller hut near the new spring, where he would weave only for personal solace and to teach the children the stories of the oasis through simple tapestries. The transition was peaceful, a natural passing of the season. Precious's role evolved with his. Their friendship, forged in silence and loyalty, had long bloomed into a deep, understanding love. She became the keeper of the oracle's peace, managing the requests for Fred's time, ensuring the young weaver wasn't overwhelmed as Kofi had been. She and Kofi built a life not of prophecy, but of presence. They adopted 2 children orphaned by a desert storm. Kofi taught the children to weave baskets, to listen to the wind in the cliffs. Precious taught them to track, to find water. Their home became a place where the mystical and the practical lived in harmony. Kofi's final lesson was a life lived, that after the grand weaving of destiny, the most important tapestry is the quiet, daily weave of family, community, and love. Years later, a new threat emerged, a roving band of sand reavers, ruthless raiders. The elders, now with Fred as their weaver, came to Kofi for counsel. He did not weave. Instead, he took them to the great communal rope, still wound around the moon blossom tree, now partially grown into the bark. He pointed to it, then to their own chests, and finally to Fred in the council hut. The message was clear. The strength was not in one weaver's vision, but in their woven unity and in trusting the new oracle they had raised. Fred wove for the crisis. Her pattern showed not a battle, but the reavers getting lost in a mirage canyon to the west, if the oasis guards showed force at the eastern pass. They followed the strategy. The reavers, faced with a unified, prepared defense, took the easier-looking western route and vanished into the hallucinogenic salt flats. The oasis was saved by strategy born of foresight and collective will. In his old age, Kofi's hands grew stiff, but his insight deepened. He began the project of the ancestral wall. On a long, sheltered cliff face near the Talking Cliffs, using pigments made from minerals and plants, he painted the history of the oasis, not as a literal chronicle, but as a series of symbolic tapestries rendered in paint. The founding by Gabriel, the coming of the iron shadow, depicted as a gray cloud with a gleaming eye, the great rope binding, the healing of the tree. He did not paint himself as a central figure, but as a small, silent figure at a loom in the corner of each major event, a witness and a tool. His final mural showed Fred weaving at the great loom, with children, his own included, adding threads to its base. The story was continuing. His art taught the virtue of perspective, seeing one's own life as a single, vital thread in a grand, eternal design. The end of Kofi's story was as quiet as his life. He passed in his sleep, holding Precious's hand. On his bedside table was a small, finished tapestry. It showed a single strong acacia tree, the loom's wood, with its roots drinking from a deep well. A shuttle was flying from its branches like a seed pod towards a new sapling growing nearby. It was his final, silent prophecy of continuity. His funeral was a festival of gratitude, not of mourning. People did not wear black. They wore the colors of the sands he used. Fred wove his shroud herself, using threads from every family in the oasis. He was buried at the base of the ancestral wall. His body returned to the earth that had spoken through him. Precious placed his first, simple wooden shuttle on the grave. "You taught us to listen to the silence," she signed to the gathering crowd. "Now, your silence is full of everything you gave us." Today, the oasis thrives. Fred is a wise and respected weaver, with her own apprentice. The great loom is used, but so are Tumrit's maps and Precious's scouts and the Council of Elders. The story of the Silent Loom is told to every child. They are taught that every craft, pottery, tracking, healing, governing, is a form of weaving the community's strength. When faced with a dilemma, they no longer say, "Ask the weaver." They say, "Let us weave the answer." They look to their own hands, their own knowledge, and the bonds between them. Kofi's greatest gift was not the visions in the sand, but the lesson that the future is not a fixed pattern to be seen, but a living cloth to be crafted, together, by hands that are brave, hearts that are united, and spirits that listen to the deep, humming song of the world. And so, the story, like a well-woven cloth, endures, strong, beautiful, and forever holding the shape of those who made it. And so, the final thread is woven, and the loom falls silent. But the story? The story never ends. This tale of Kofi, the Silent Loom, is just one thread in a vast and shimmering tapestry of legends waiting to be unfurled. Your journey through the sands does not have to stop here. If this story of silent prophecies, impossible choices, and the unbreakable weave of community spoke to your spirit, then you have a place by our fire. Become part of our storytelling village. Subscribe and ring the bell. Be the first to journey into the next forgotten kingdom, meet the next keeper of ancient magic, and decipher the next moral mystery. In the comments below, weave your own thread. Tell us, what would you ask the Silent Loom to weave for you? A vision of courage? A pattern for peace? Share your question with the community. Share this story with one person who needs to remember that the loudest truths are often heard in silence, and that our greatest strength lies in how we are woven together. The ancestral wall holds countless more stories. I am the keeper of these tales, and my channel is the hearth where